Hopefully this is recording well. Welcome to the Saturn in Aries video that I'm doing. Thank you everybody who has already subscribed to my channel and watched the last video, which is about Neptune in Aries. So go and check that out if you haven't already. This is Saturn in Aries, and if you're wondering, there will be also a video which combines both of them in Aries. You're thinking, okay, that's a lot of planets in Aries. Yes, indeed. So I've decided to do a focus, though, first of all, in Saturn in Aries, which will be from the 13th of February. So we've already entered that phase, basically. I'm recording on the 14th, and it will be there till the 12th of April. And of course, there is the famous perfection where there will be Saturn and Neptune that will be completely conjunct and with each other on the 20th of February, a week from now approximately. They're pretty much together now anyway. But yeah, I mean, this whole week is quite eventful in astrology, if I can say that. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, it's quite a momentous time in astrology. And even though I'm a little bit late on this video and Saturn is already there telling me, you are late, I still wanted to do the video, so hopefully you'll enjoy this. Now, before I go further, I am Dark Fae Astrology, so welcome again. If you haven't already, please do like, subscribe. Subscribing is really important for channels on YouTube, as you know. I hype the channel. I have no idea what that is, but everybody is apparently doing it. So if you can, that would be really helpful. The last video has done really well. I was very shocked, but at the same time, I saw there weren't that many people subscribing, and I've noticed that already on YouTube in general. There's a lot of comments where the views are high but the subscribers is low. Please do hit the subscribe button. It helps me know if the channel is going to be viable for the future. Leave a comment if you enjoy this video, and your views and subscriptions are already much appreciated. You know, those who already are visiting this channel, you're very welcome. Thank you so much. And those who are new as well, you're very welcome as well. And also, just so you know, my charts are from astroseek.com. Thank you for them for giving me permission to use their charts. I really appreciate that, and use their website. So it's a free website, very well done. I mean, it's an amazing website. I have no idea how one person could have done this, and they have allowed me to use their website, which I just again appreciate. So thank you. Okay, so let's look at Saturn in Aries and what's that about. So let's look at Saturn, the planet. And excuse me, my thumbnail is right over this. So let me see if I can just move myself a little bit out of the way while I do this. So it is, let me just do this for a second to see if that helps. It might help. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I've cut myself off a bit there. So that's a bit better. So Saturn is the sixth planet in the solar system. It's very interesting because, after that, we basically go into the modern planets. So we really are at the edge of the solar system in the ancient world. It's the last planet in the ancient world. And then, of course, the new ones start, which is, of course, Uranus, then Neptune. And then we have what is in astronomy a dwarf planet, but we still have it in astrology, which is Pluto. So this is the sixth planet in the solar system. It has, it rules 2 astrology signs. We'll go into that. It is the last planet. It has a boundary kind of like feel to it already because it is on that outer. For the ancient rulers, for our ancient world, it is right at the edge before the discovery of modern planets, and it was one of the last. It was the last planet to be detected by sight, which makes it really, really interesting. It is the second largest in the solar system. It is a gas giant, just like Jupiter. And you might see, by the way, that the writing is a little bit funny here, and that's because of the fact that after I did this, sorry, I should say this. After I did this PowerPoint, I realized, oh no, I can't see the words properly that are right in that middle of that Saturn area. So yeah, it looks a bit funny, but I'm just trying my best to make an aesthetically pleasing presentation. So anyway, thank you for bearing with me. So yeah, it is the second largest. Saturn is a gas giant like Jupiter. It is mostly made up of hydrogen, helium, and it has a very thick atmosphere. And this is phenomenal. It has 146 moons at this moment, which means there are more in discovery, and it has 7 main ring systems, the famous rings, making it what is known to be one of the most beautiful planets basically in the solar system, as many of us say. It has these moons called Enceladus and Titan, which have their own oceans, which is very interesting. There's some of the few areas in the solar system that we know there are actually oceans, water there. And this is interesting. One day is just under 11 hours, which is phenomenal. It spins very fast. 1 year, though, is 29.4 Earth years, which is why a Saturn journey takes approximately 30 years. And that's why when we are having our Saturn returns, normally, unless we live into our 90s, we only have 2 Saturn returns in our lives, which makes it very, very interesting. The planet is named after, actually, Saturn is the Roman name. The planet is named after Kronos, and he's the father of Zeus, which is Jupiter. And there's a wonderful story about Kronos and actually and the story between Kronos and Zeus. So it's really worth investigating the mythology of it. It has many layers to it. And then there's the equatorial diameter, of about 75,000 miles, which is 120,000 kilometers. It is huge. That's all I'm going to say. It's a huge planet. It is 9 times wider than Earth. And the rings are thought to be broken pieces of comets and asteroids and shattered moons that they kind of like just disintegrated before they're reaching the planet because of the pull of the planet. It has a very powerful gravitational pull, and they're made up of millions and billions of small chunks of ice and rock and coated with materials such as dust. You can actually see in the rings sometimes some of these moons, by the way. So the rings can be these tiny dust-sized icy grains, all the way to like chunks that are as big as houses, they say, big as mansions and houses and that kind of thing. And some chunks are even as big as a mountain. And actually, I've seen images of Saturn, obviously NASA images, and I can't show them because of copyright regions, but you can actually see the rings have these kind of like slopes sometimes, like going upwards when you see them edge on. And these are like mountains, basically. I mean, it's just amazing when you think about it. It's the only planet in the solar system with an average density that is less than water, indeed. So it's a gas giant. And apparently, I read that it can float in the bathtub. That's how colossal it is. But it's less than water. So it's like a big bouncy ball, basically. And as a gas giant, it doesn't have really a true surface. This is all from NASA, by the way. And it's just mostly swirling gases. And it is blanketed, and we do see these stripes. The same way you see stripes on Jupiter, you do have stripes on Saturn. Of course, the most famous still, though, are the rings. That's where we have that beautiful effect. And in honor, I'm wearing this dress. And it's many shades of yellows and browns and grays. Again, I'm wearing this dress. And the winds are in the upper atmosphere. It's phenomenal. 500 meters per second, 1,600 feet per second. I mean, that's amazing at the equatorial region. And if you go and watch the Cassini documentary. Cassini visited Saturn and took a phenomenal amount of pictures. There are just, when you see the pictures, it's like they took my breath away. It's a very famous mission that was done by NASA. And at the top of the planet, there's this hexagonal storm system that's going on. I mean, these jet streams, it's phenomenal when you see it. And they are perfect hexagonal shapes in like a hexagonal layout. It's just like, what am I looking at? It's just nature at a point which I just cannot imagine. Sorry, I'm going out of the focus there. So go and have a look at that. I'm sure you can find the documentary very easily. So I'm going to go on to the next slide, and hopefully I can move the video a bit. I think I can now. Yeah. So we're going to look at, I'm going to do this for a bit and then I'll move it out of the way. We're going to look at Saturn, which is the Roman name. It's Kronos in Greek, different ways of spelling it. He's known to be the perfection of time. Now it's interesting because a lot of people generally think of we would think of Greek gods and goddesses. They attribute them to certain concepts like love, war, agriculture, oceans, that kind of thing. But they can also occupy time and spaces. So for example, Hades, the god, is also Hades, the underworld. The god is the space as well. And in that sense, Kronos, the god, is also the personification of time. And he's often depicted with a scythe and wheel. Now, there is more to this story than the first initial Greek telling of the story. It actually goes into Egyptian mythology as well, which I'm not going to go into right now. But it's interesting. It's this feeling that when we say in modern times, we reap what we sow, and Saturn is really about that. Now that gives him a very scary feel. I am a huge fan of Saturn, by the way. I personally love Saturn. I love all the planets, but Saturn I particularly do like, and Uranus as well. And so I think that this notion of looking at what we've set into motion, what one has created, the consequences of our actions, is really a fundamental part of our emotional growth, what we're here on this planet for. So I think that he plays a very key role in helping each one of us fulfill that destiny, if I might say so. He is, known as, he is the son of Uranus or Uranus, and Gaia, and he is also the father of Jupiter and the other Olympians. So he plays a very key role here. He overthrew Uranus famously, castrating Uranus. From that castration, I won't go into the details because I can't, it's YouTube, but we get, of course, from the foam of that we get Aphrodite. So a very famous act that takes place, and Saturn is the one who does this. So he's known as kind of like this god that overthrows. Now always remember, Uranus is the son of chaos. So it's interesting, we have chaos, we have Uranus, who is in a way very much that maverick, and then we have Saturn, who's much more stable in that sense. He wants to overthrow his father, and he does that. And then he does what's known in mythology as the Golden Age. He's the father of the Golden Age, where actually things are very, very well in this universe and this planet, and things go well under him. But it's interesting how we've gone from like chaos to maverick changes to now stability, right? And then of course he becomes the father of the Olympians, which is another story. He's married to Rhea, also a child of Uranus and Gaia, and he famously, Saturn famously swallowed his children. And we begin with a specific order. Hera is the first one, and then I think, no, Hera is the last one. So I need to go back and check my order. There is an order for them, and so Hera is the first one that he swallows, and then Vesta, Demeter, Hades, and then Poseidon. And then Jupiter is about to be swallowed, and his mother Rhea swaps him out for a stone to save Jupiter. And of course, then Jupiter comes back to avenge his father. So it's interesting, right? Now we have this lineage going from chaos to Uranus to Saturn to Jupiter. And so that's why also just remembering how this whole family dynasty is happening. I think that's the best way I can put it. Zeus overthrows his father, and then the Titans are banished. Jupiter banishes Saturn and to the pit of Tartarus, and there's this deep dungeon of suffering and pain, and but again, it's a place and a deity. You've always got to remember Tartarus is also a deity. So I'm going to move myself out of the way now here a little bit, and hopefully you can still see me as I do this. Yes, and I'll go backwards a bit here. So, Zeus is, in the end, Saturn is freed. And he ends up living on Elysian, I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, Elysian Islands. And these are the home of the blessed dead. So he still plays a role, a very active role. He is the agricultural god of sowing and seeding and sowing, I should say, sorry. He's often depicted in art as this elderly, wise figure. You'll see clocks around him, the sky again. Also think of the sky when you think of the Lenormand, and you see oracles. It's the passage of time. It's reaping what we sow. It's also pruning things away. It's very cosmic. It's relentless. It's all-encompassing nature of time. It's the Orphic tradition. He's from the Orphic tradition originally, which have a mixture of practices and beliefs. And Saturnalia was this agricultural festival that the Romans held in December to honor the god of Saturn. So after the harvest and the main crops are taken, and he's seen as the best of days, again, the golden age. So we see him in modern day as like the grim reaper. He's going to be testing, he's going to be difficult, it's going to be tough. I actually see him coming in and sorting things out. He's almost kind of like the financial, to me, he's a bit of a financial COO director, the chief operating director, where he will come in and say, you know, I need to look at whether or not how this is running is actually functioning. How can we improve it? What do we need to let go of? What do we need to rearrange? What is our output? Is this working at maximum full capacity as best as it can? And he will do that in the houses. That's what I think anyway, where he's falling in our chart. So I think of him as releasing, reformulating, reevaluating, like a vision, restructure and revise. It's a lot of re's here, but he's doing it for a reason. And whenever gods are there for a reason, I believe that they give us a gift as well, a gift of learning, a gift of growing. So yeah, that's my thoughts around Saturn as the god. So let me go forward now. This one, can I get it changed? Yeah, here it is. So here we have Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries, and what's going to happen here. And the last time Saturn was in Aries, and then I'm going to talk about Aries separately, was the 7th of April 1996 to June 1998. So have a look at that time period in your life. What was going on? How are you feeling? What area of your life was really active? Where was their focus? Where were things that were working well, that weren't working well? If you were alive at this time and you have a working memory of this time, let's put it this way, you know, you're already into your teens. I was in my late teens. I'm definitely a 90s teenager. I was in my late teens at that time. So, you know, for me, my mid to late teens, it was really a time where actually I had a lot of difficulties. I felt under pressure to do things that weren't in alignment with who I am. I made a lot of changes in my life after that in terms of where I wanted to go, the direction I set for my life. And so it's interesting, you know, that was Saturn in Aries for me. And also look back at last year in the summer from May to September, because Saturn was in Aries then. So you would have had a preview of already some of the things that you were encountering in that summertime. And then so now the main transit is going to be from now until the 12th of April 2028. Of course, Neptune is already here in Aries, and last year in the summer it was also Saturn and Neptune in Aries together. That's very interesting. So we have them together. So there'll be a separate video of how they will interact, because that's going to be key. But because Saturn is in Aries for 2.5 years, while Neptune is in Aries for 14 years, there's a big difference in that. How Neptune is rolling out, because he's at a much slower pace in that sense, and how Saturn is rolling out. So if you're early in your sign, the more closer you are to 0 degrees of wherever you are, whereas your sun or your ascendant, you would already now be feeling the impact of this. For those born later on in their sign or having an ascendant later on in the sign, is going to be later on. So in these 2.5 years, I hope that makes sense. Before then, when Saturn, Neptune, Aries were together, which will be in a separate video, there were several conjunctions. There was the fall of the Berlin Wall as well. So lots of interesting things happening in that sense. So yeah, I'm just looking at this and going, okay, am I getting my math right? Yeah. So, it's the last time that they met. They didn't meet at 0, but the last time that they met, that's what the 1989 stuff is about. They weren't at 0. That's why this particular inception is, I think, just something else. So we'll talk about that in a separate video. But let's go back to Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries. And so I've talked a little bit about here 1989, but I'm going to come back to that. We also have, in the 1990s, let me go back to that because I think I've done a bit of a mess here. We have the World Wide Web, we have the CERN system being set up, and then, things are changing. In the late 90s, we'd had, independence in many different countries. So, yeah, it's an interesting point that we're revisiting, but in a way now a completely new world in that sense. Some people are saying there's a new order coming in. And the other thing to remember is that Saturn is in fall in Aries. Now, it's interesting because when a planet is in fall, it's really at its worst. Basically, it's very uncomfortable. Saturn has just arrived in a place where he's going to spend 2.5 years, and really he doesn't feel at his most powerful, according to ancient astrology. However, I have a different take on that, and that's because Mars is exalted in Capricorn, and Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. I feel, and Mars is, by the way, the ruler of Aries. He's a co-ruler of Aries. Saturn is the co-ruler of Capricorn and Aquarius. Mars is the co-ruler of Aries and Scorpio in traditional astrology. So Saturn being in fall in Aries, I don't think it's as challenging as some might make out. Now he's exalted in Libra. That's the other side of it, right? I think this is a moment where we can draw upon the fact that he's in a very uncomfortable place, perhaps. But Aries is a sign to me that is very innovative, that is fresh, that wants to do something. Now, whether or not he sees it through is a different matter, but it's a very, very innovative self-identity. It's that fool energy, right? The energy is like, I'm off on my adventure. And Saturn goes in there. It's probably like, actually I need to make sure that, that you don't go running rampant. And you might see Saturn as a little bit of dampening the parade. He rains on your parade. But the thing is about him being in Aries that I think is good is that he's going to give structure to what Aries doesn't have. So now you actually might end up with projects that actually go much further because Saturn has got in there. So we're going to talk about that now in a little bit. So again, what's Aries like? This is the same discussion that I had when I talked about with Neptune. Aries is, of course, the ram. It's the golden fleece, the mythology of the golden fleece and Jason and the Argonauts. It is a fire sign. It's a cardinal fire sign. It's right at the start of spring. It's the vernal equinox. It's the start of the zodiac in Western astrology. It's fire, it's combustion, it's spark, it has this glow effect. I think of embers. It's initiation. It's, of course, Mars rules. So again, Mars is a god of agriculture. Mars here is the god of agriculture, seeding. Remember, Saturn is the god of agriculture, harvesting. So that's why we have these juxtapositions. So I believe that Saturn can really help us seed some very, very good projects that are born out very well later on. He's the god. Aries is the god of war. Of course, he's Mars in Roman. He's kind of like Mars in Roman mythology. Aries is all about seeds, turning of the soil. I always think of when we plant seeds, we actually have to turn the soil, right? It needs to be that fresh earth. And then so I always think of that. He's courage, he's strength, he's boldness. He's, the Aries, I should say the ram, the ram is impulsive, energetic. She is full of life. They are, they start things, but they can burn out as well. It's that spring effect. It's when we see spring and we just go, oh, yes. It's the start of the zodiac belt. And, remember, Mars is the ruler, and that's warrior energy. That's bravery. That's courage. I always call it the hoof energy is coming through. It's courageous energy. It's the ram that's ready to jump off that hill kind of thing. So Saturn and Aries and those themes. So I think it's a wizened Time Lord that meets a small ram on the brink of the precipice. That's how I see it. I just think like this. It's kind of like that ram that's going out there, and the Time Lord comes up and says, I need to make sure that this is a good venture. And I think that's a really interesting place for us to all to be in, when it comes to Saturn and Aries. It's the energy of youthfulness, initiative, warrior mindset, enthusiasm, and risk-taking meets a god who's all about learning. So he's all about, we have to consider things, we have to balance it out, we have to weigh the options, we have to see how things plan out. Does it have structure? Does it have longevity? Is it financially viable? Is it logistically viable? That's when Saturn comes in. It's about forethought and responsibility, and Aries is like, I just want to go. So we do have that two meeting, but there's a reason for that, right? Saturn will want to make things in a slow and considered manner. He'll want us to think things through. Planning is key, and he wants us to correct any errors that we've made. He favors boundaries, logic, and rational. Like I said, Aries is like go, 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 go. And Aries wants speed, he wants traction, he wants to just get going. He wants us to trust our gut instincts and take on new stuff. So the synergies here I'm talking about is that, Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, Mars is the ruler of Aries. Capricorn is the go, Aries is the ram. So I think that's interesting. So they both have hoof energy, actually. Saturn is considered a fallen Aries, Mars is exalted in Capricorn, interesting. So can they learn from each other? That's what I'm saying. Saturn will want us to, Aries, I've made a mistake there in my presentation. Aries will allow for more risk and be less reproachable if mistakes are made. Saturn will, I've got it the wrong way around. I've muddled myself up. What I was trying to say here was that Saturn will feel more of a risk taker. And I believe that Aries will become more strategic because of the fact that Saturn is sitting there. So it's almost as if they're going to be swapping, I feel a bit like melding their qualities in order to make this work. Fire and earth create volcanic mountains, and this is the beauty of it. Even though there is such devastation, absolutely, and it is quite scary and dangerous, afterwards the fertile soil of a volcano is where we get our minerals from. We get fresh water. It is absolutely, so vital on our planet. So it creates dramatic weather fronts. So fire and earth are at the core of every planet. So I believe these are two very interesting energies that I'm meeting. Saturn is cardinal. Saturn is the ruler of cardinal earth in Capricorn. He's also the ruler of fixed Aquarius. And here we're meeting a cardinal fire sign. So interesting, in terms of the qualities. Boundaries can help us build new foundations for new ventures. That's what I think. Enthusiasm and self-belief is needed as well. So enterprise, entrepreneurship, creativity, new ideas, new thoughts, breaking ground, all of this is coming into this mix for me. Cardinals have the will to create. One thing to remember though is that because Saturn will be in a cardinal sign, the other cardinals are going to find that squaring happening, but it's important for us. And fire signs, there's a mutual reception and there's a flow of energy. So it's interesting to see these energies play out. Saturn will move in 2.5 years already to the next one in 2 years, like in 2028. So he's going to outrun Neptune. So we really have only a certain moment of time where he's with Neptune. And I think that's so important. That video is going to be coming up. So the next slide. And then I'll try and speed it up with the individual signs. So, what should you do? That's what this is about. What can you do? You can learn more about the mythology of Saturn, the father of the Olympians, his restoration by Zeus, even though, Zeus has to overthrow him. You can look at your relationship with time. Keep a journal, day-to-day time. If you've got time vagueness, if you're hyper time sensitive, I can be that. Then I can go into time vagueness because I stress myself so much. Boundaries versus the letting go, because boundaries will be Saturnial, letting go will be the Aries side. Time as a keeper of our lives, because really at the end of the day, time is very much a human construct for us to understand our lives. So the events of our lives, the karma in action, when things are resolved over time, trusting the process is also part of time. Time is not always to be as art. Time is also a learner as well. And it's also about trusting our gut instinct, taking a leap of faith. Let me move myself a little bit out of the way here for you all. It's about starting something new. It's about initiative. It's seeing something through. Keep a journal. I've said that. Make notes of when it passes over your key planets. Observe this whole transit. Do you have planets in Aries? Do you have planets in cardinal signs, in fire signs? It's a good thing. It's a good moment to look at that. Look also where it will the angle it will have with your sun or your ascendant. And whatever house it will fall in the next few years, you're going to see changes in your life. And Saturn leaves a gift at the end. I always remember this, so welcome that gift. Look at the transit we just had in Pisces the last couple of years, and look where it was in your chart there. What did you learn about that? So that's also a tip. And also perhaps if for example, I'll give you this example. I'm a Scorpio sun. So for me to understand a little bit more about how it might be hitting me, sometimes it's good for me to look at somebody who's just had it, and that will be in my 6th house. For Scorpios, it will be in their 6th. It will be good for me to look at somebody else who's just had it in their 6th. And of course, that will be the Librans. So you can see here that you can look at the sign before yours and ask somebody, if you know them, what was that transit like for you? Okay, so now we're going to go into all the signs. Okay, and I'm really going to have to move myself a little bit that way, but hopefully I will still be in shot. Yeah, I will be. Okay, so this is the event chart, and I just brought it up because I thought it was interesting. I've set this event chart. Let me move myself a little bit more still. Yeah, it's 14th of February, so it's actually was today at midnight. And that is under the Greenwich time zone, Greenwich Mean Time, because of the fact that that is also UTC. So that's why I used it. I'm not actually in the UK myself. So anyway, going back to this, let's look at the event chart just quickly. So where do we have Saturn? So here he is at 0 degrees, and there's Neptune right there. They're both at the zeros, and they're going to perfect. They're going to meet each other next week, exactly at the same exact moment. And you can see here what's happening already. We have here Uranus. Observe this, right? Uranus is right at the end of his transit in Taurus. He's moving into Gemini April the 23rd, I think. We have Jupiter here midway through his transit, still in retrograde in Cancer. He's going to go direct, I believe, next month in Cancer. So there he is. He loves being in Cancer. He's exalted. Directly opposite the moon here in Capricorn. So we have that going on. So the moon here is in Capricorn when this is happening. The moon moves every 2.5 days. You might be thinking it's not a full moon, of course. It's these are different phases of the moon. Here's the sun, of course, in Aquarius. It's near the end of its journey in Aquarius as this inception of Saturn Aries is happening. We have Venus very close to the North Node. And then we have Mercury either side of the North Node here in Pisces. So, of course, because Pisces season is coming up, we have a lot going on there. And the North Node is in Pisces for now. Of course, always traveling retrograde, the nodes. Here we have the South Node in Virgo. So just note that the nodes will be shifting again later this year. But we do have this... we have soon an eclipse coming up here. So it's a very interesting time right now in astrology. I just keep having to say that. So really observe this chart. Chiron is also near the end of his transit in Aries. I'm going to say more about Chiron later, but one tip I personally think is that Chiron can be quite painful for some of us. And I really believe Saturn is going to help heal some of the pain that we've gone through with that Chiron transit. So I'm now going to move on and go through each of the signs, and I'll try to be as quick as I can. Okay. So here we have Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. And let me really now move myself out of the way, and I'm going to have to go this way so that I still stay in shot, but you see your full chart. So hold on a second. I'm just going to move myself. Sorry about that. I'm just improvising as I go. Hopefully I'm still in shot. Yeah. Here we go. Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. This is your first house. Of course, this is happening here. especially if you're a rising sign, of course, because that's where the wheel begins. It's about your true, you're going to have Saturn, this energy of clearing things out, a huge declutter, physical, emotional, mental, restructuring, reshaping, re-energizing, revitalizing, putting good foundations in. And that's going to happen in your sense of self and your core, your identity, your initiation. It is a very, very sensitive place to be in. It's the first, it's how, how you view yourself is going to be going through a huge transformation. If you're in your 30s, you're facing your first quarter life phase. If you're in your 50s or your 60s, you're facing looking at your achievements. This is your second round. It's your values, your beliefs, your patterns will change. You can see major changes within yourself across the board, your personal self, your relationships, your work life, your community, your siblings, your family, romantic marriages, child relationships, your dynamics with your children, dynamics with your local community, your friendships, your sense of purpose, even all of that will be shifting. The plus side of this, I've done this plus side, is going to be shedding. There's going to be a lot of inner journeying. Think of that Joseph Campbell phrase, right? Like the treasure you seek is in the cave that you fear the most. This is that path. This is that journey you're going to be hitting. The challenging is difficulty in accepting things, battling yourself, getting very frustrated with yourself. This really will be calling some key moments of self-love and nurture needed, because Saturn transits can be difficult, especially when it's through your ascendant sign or your sun sign. However you consider it, it's a return. So I've had Saturn in Scorpio. I'm Scorpio sun. I'm also a Virgo rising. I had a bit of a breather, and then Saturn was back again. And I know the pain of going through that. I've had my first round. So definitely it is a very challenging part of our life when it goes through that. Learn to have some kindness for yourself. It is so key. Give yourself that. Some interesting aspects, also to remember here when it's happening is that, there is this sextile going on with Pluto in Aquarius. So, that there is something there I see in terms of the fact that in your 11th house of groups, large groups, that's changing. But see this as a moment where that could help you as this transit is happening. It could be that through large groups and philanthropy and through social justice and those large networks, that it helps you as you go through, when you're going through a Saturn transit through, your Aries, basically. So that's what I was trying to say there. And sorry, stumbling over my own words right now. But yeah, and you also have this moment where you've got Uranus there in Taurus, in the sign right next to you, basically. So that could be a little bit uncomfortable, I think. I'm going to go into that a little bit later. I personally think that Uranus now is really just at the end of his journey in Taurus, in the sense of he's done. He's really done. That's what I think. I think that what we're going to see is him pulling out of that very tough soil space, because it's Taurus, it's fixed earth. And when he does, we will see a tremendous upsurge of energy, which I think is needed. So I personally don't think this is going to really rattle Saturn at the moment. I think more than anything is, the fact that we have this, we have Neptune so close, which I'm going to talk about later. So yeah, let me go on now to the next one, which is Taurus. Okay, so this is happening in your 12th house. 12th house is all about endings. So, higher self, hidden enemies, spiritual growth, cosmic merger is where we lose ourselves and we become one. It's very woo-woo space, right? But it's interesting because Saturn is all about like culling. So Saturn is in the 12th house, and this is going to be a major culling of things that really just need to go. I think this is where it's a major surrender that's going to be happening. It's very Neptunal energy here. So, and Neptune is right next to Saturn as well. So it's quite an interesting moment, right? Because you have Neptune in your 12th house as well, which is just like phenomenal. So again, Neptune rules the 12th in modern astrology. So just Neptune rules Pisces in modern astrology. So you have very powerful Neptune there. So I think he's going to help ease the blow of things being colored away. That's what I personally think. It's going to be some structural changes in how you view mortality. There's going to be some very deep questions about the psyche, the occult, mortality, how you view, perhaps if you're of faith, how you view your religion, your tradition, maybe you're of a spiritual, more of the looser spiritual nature, I don't know how else to put it, you know, your relationship with the occult even, or with other ways of viewing spiritual life. Saturn in the 12th wants to create structure. It wants a boundless plane. And so, yeah, it's in a boundless plane. So it's going to be tough for it in there, you know. But there is a trine going on. That's what I've written here. Interestingly, with yeah, so you have this basically this ability of it having this flow, and allow it to flow, basically allow it to have this moment where it kind of like can have this with Pluto and with Uranus, allow it to have this flow of energy where if things are going, then let them go, basically, and let things move. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. So in the 11th house, and I'm looking at this triangle, this is what I'm talking about, by the way. I wanted to talk about this flow. With Gemini, what you have is you have this happening, you have Saturn in Aries happening in your 11th house. So it's interesting. It's another actually air house, because traditionally it's the Aquarian space. So it's the house of groups, charities, social justice, technology, the internet, philanthropy. When I say the internet, people sometimes say that's Gemini. When I say the internet here, I mean the World Wide Web. I mean being able to know people on the other side of the world. I mean large groups on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever social networks you use, where you have large scale information available to people. Saturn naturally rules the 11th. He is the ancient ruler of Aquarius. So in a way, this is a comfortable space for him to be in. So he can do structure here. He will be cautious. He will be telling you, for the Gemini risings, he's going to be very careful about what you sign up for. This is where, and the big things to sign up for. So if you have some kind of like big thing going on and it's a huge social or wide group activity, this is where Saturn will be like, what are you going to be doing in here? He will ask you those questions. He wants you to think through your allegiances and your alliances when it comes to the global community, and he's going to be clear about your old beliefs when it comes to these kind of causes, when it comes to social justice, again, political and societal interests. And the sextile that we have going on here with this flow of energy is going to mean that, he's going to be doing well with that flow of energy, with that 60-degree energy going on. So he's going to be in a good flow here with some other planets. And I think that what you'll see is certain things, again, where the structure is happening, where things will just naturally flow away, because he is in a flow with your ascendant, basically. Cancer, this is happening in your 10th house. Now, this is the house of career, ambition, recognition. This is happening right at the top of your sky. This is traditionally also a Saturnian rule, because of course it's the house of Capricorn traditionally. So it's a professional area, your promotions, your work space, your work ethic. Saturn is a ruler of all of that, and he is it's Capricornial. I make up this word, Capricornial space. He's naturally at home here. He's going to be squaring with your sun, moon, or rise, or your ascendant is at a 90-degree angle, so it is a hard angle to you. So you're going to find yourself sometimes in conflict within yourself in this whole process, because you might have it that ambitiously you need to go somewhere, or you want to go somewhere in terms of your actual your structure, your work structure, your if you have a business, but you want a certain way where you want to climb, and it might just have a conflict with your inner self in that sense. Pressure and choices to be made, tension in that area. Look at what needs to be released or reformulated or just let go of on this. And you'll see career and karmic patterns when it comes to career, ambition, rewards. Is there something that needs to be addressed? Where is it that we have to reconcile or reshape things? The 10th house is knowledge, ambition, growth, heights, insight, being seen, is public recognition. So you might find yourself at a hard place on these activities as it's transitioning because of the fact that it's at a hard angle to your sun. Leo. So this is happening in your 9th house. So again, it's really near the top of the sky now. Journeys, planning, adventures, new cultures, traditions, higher education. It's really a place where you will find yourself, going and learning about a new religion perhaps, or a new spiritual practice, but from a traditional point of view. It's the house traditionally of, I always think of university. I always say that a lot, because when you get to university, a lot of times in the old days, people moved far away. Even today, people move far away. It's an investment of time. You have mentors, you have a structural institution teaching you, but at the same time, you're learning new things, right? Because university is always on the fresh ground of new innovative ideas. So it's really a cool house in that sense. Traditionally, it's a Jupiterian house. So this is where you might find some restructuring going on. Are there cycles and rituals and traditions which need to be, some of them culled away, some of them perhaps reinforced? Do you need to return to tried and trusted methods? Sometimes I think of the Hierophant card a little bit here, where sometimes the old ways of doing things are actually best. Not all the time, of course. It can be dampening also a little bit of your explorative feeling, but use this as a moment to do things structurally sound in this area of your life. And this is in harmony with you, by the way, as well, in terms of your ascendant, sun, moon, or rising. It's going to be harmony with you. It's at a trine. So there's a good flow to this energy as well. Okay. Virgos, this is happening in your 8th house, and I'm a Virgo rising, so trust me, I'm there. I'm a 0-degree Virgo rising, so I am right now hitting it. This is going to do with all of our it's to do with shared resources, right? The 8th house is traditionally a Scorpionic house. So we're looking at shared resources, shared bonds, shared energy, shared money, shared values, shared living spaces. It's a very intimate part of our chart where we're bonding. Traditionally, of course, it's the reproductive system. So there's also creativity, there's transformation happening, basically new life in that space as well. It's very karmic, it's very institutional in that sense. And this is a space of death and rebirths, as I said, psychology, hidden secrets, all of those kind of things. It's traditionally a Mars and / Pluto ruled area of our life. So Saturn will want us to be true to our word. Remember, Pluto is right now also sitting in Aquarius, which is a Saturn ruled sign. So there's a little bit of also cross harmonization going on there. I can't remember the astrological term for it. It's gone out of my mind. But so they basically there is that cross, which actually is going to be good in that sense. Saturn will want us to be true to our word. So if we make a contractual agreement to do with our shared resources, we now need to live up to that. It's a sense of truth, justice, balance is going to start surfacing here, because that's also Saturnian aspects. It could be about being fair towards ourselves as well. Virgos can be intensely self-critical. I know that as a Virgo rising at 0 degrees, the point of perfection. We cannot always just neatly square everything away in this transit and then shove it to the side or something. Sometimes we have to accept the messiness. It's at a quincunx to our ascendant or a moon or a sun, which means it's a very it's an uncomfortable space for us. So it's going to have to mean that we utilize our Virgo traits of being adaptable. We are adaptable people, actually. We're perfectionists, but we're mutable. And we have to understand the demands that Saturn is going to make for us. This is a place where, and I've had this happen, I'm going to talk about it in Virgo with Saturn and Neptune in Aries in the other video. I've already had dealings where I'm seeing how they are working together, and it's very interesting. Okay, so that's for our 8th house for Virgos. So let's go on to Libra. This is happening in your 7th house. Saturn is going to be now right opposite you. So you are having a Saturn opposite return. It's your marriage, it's your one-to-one, it's to do with markets, the contracts, balance, anything +1. It's to do with compromising situations, not compromise situations, so places of compromise, places where we might have to balance things out with other people, partnerships, fairness. It's a Libran domicile. You would naturally know this house because you are a Libran. So yes, naturally this is your house, the 7th house. So you may encounter some tumultuous energy in this space of marriage, partnerships, business partnerships, one-to-one dealings. You might find that the other person is also finding a lot of challenges. There's the tendency to project, to blame, to be getting tangled in all of that. So this is your opportunity to tap into your toolbox of fairness, balance, and clarity. Patience. You are the natural home of the 7th house. Be open to change as well. You need to be gentle with yourself and with others. It's a tough place when it's right opposite you. I've just had it right opposite me because, of course, I'm a Virgo rising, so I know that challenging feeling that will come in. Okay, but if anybody can handle the +1, it's the Librans, because you are the balancers of the universe. You are the 7th sign. Scorpios, I'm a Scorpio sun. I'm also a Scorpio sun at 0 degrees. So trust me when I say I'm feeling this energy right now. This is our 6th house. This is a Virgonic house. I know it's a very strange place for me because I have both signs. So it's very much about daily routines, work, home, purpose, our value, our precision, our analysis. Thoughts become matter. Virgo is the place where it's like, okay, we have to get practical now. So Scorpios, this is our day-to-day life. This is where what does the Americans say, the rubber hits the road, that kind of I can't remember that saying, but you know what I'm saying. It's when things start to are happening. It's also a place where I will see of retirement independence because of the Vestal Virgin. So it's about salary and compensation, our value, our worth, our purpose. It's a very mercurial house because of the 6th house. It's actually Mercury ruled. So Mars being our ruler as Scorpios, and because it's in Aries, which is a Scorpio rule sign, we could have a lot of martial power here. Be careful. Our martial power could be strengthening here. And I know that as other Scorpios, you know what it is to be Mars ruled and Hadean ruled. You know what it is to have those powerful energies as your rulers. We need to learn about responsibility, longevity, and having robust structures in our day-to-day lives. We might find it interfering. I know Scorpios, we don't like anyone interfering in our business. We're very secretive, but we need to embrace that change. It is again at a quincunx. Very similar to the Virgos, where it's in an uncomfortable situation. We need to find a way to be collaborative rather than competitive in this situation. Okay, so that's Scorpio there. I'm going to go on to now Sagittarians. This is going to be in your 5th house. So yes, I've just had Saturn in the 5th, so I know what that feels like as a Scorpio. So it's going to be a little bit of a dampening effect when it comes to joy, fun, creativity, pleasure. This is what the 5th house is about. Entrepreneurship, leadership. It's the Leo house, basically. It's the inner child. It's Leonic. So Saturn is at a trine here. There's a 5 flow going on because it's Aries, and there is that 5 flow going on. And it's at 120 degrees. But remember to make your opportunity. What I wanted to get at was This is a place of creativity. Saturn's going to make sure that your creativity actually becomes reality. It doesn't just sit there as a creative project in the ether somewhere. Um, it's real manifestation, not in the woo language, but manifestation of like actually making something, manifesting. It can be a bit of a dampener, but it also gives longevity to the work that you're doing. And it's an opportunity to also let go of things that are not working for you and you're putting a lot of investment into. So you have to put some structures in place. Don't get too bogged down because it can feel like the joy of creating has been taken from you. Don't get too bogged down by this. Capricorns, this is happening in your fourth house. This is your house of home. It's a very sensitive area. Home, roots, our ancestors, our family, our blood, our kin, our tribe, our emotions, our hearth, our feelings. Of course, it's a moon house, it's a lunar house, it's the anchor of our soul, it's deep waters. So Saturn's going to ask you to let go of things from your family space. It's a very, very, it's very sensitive, of course. Saturn is Saturn ruled. You are Saturn ruled though. Yeah, you are Capricorn. So Saturn is your ruler. So you can work well with this energy. It's hard, and it's at a hard angle to you because it's cardinal to cardinal. Aries is another cardinal sign. So you're going to feel that 90-degree, that tough angle. But to your sun or your moon or your rising. But remember, it can be a space of breakthroughs. It can feel like some things are breaking down, but then there could be also things re-emerging, recreating, reformulating. So it just might be that also you're seeing changes in how you see your family. It will leave you in a better place, but do be kind to yourself. Do be very, very kind to yourself. My mother's a Capricorn, so I'm really, really feeling scared actually because she's very elderly. And she's having Saturn in her fourth and a lot of family sensitivities that we have going on here. So yeah, I really see this as a time where I've got to be really kind to her because it's a difficult place when Saturn is in our fourth. Okay, Aquarians, this is happening in your third house of community and siblings, neighborhoods, your day-to-day activities in terms of your surrounding areas, the people around you, the commerce, the trade, communications. It's all about thinking, analysis. Remember, it's traditionally the Gemini house. And you're at a sextile, your sun, moon, or rising with Saturn in this. So there's going to be some compatibility. There's going to be some harmony. There's going to be some mercurial tones, which you'll understand because Aquarius is monoruler Uranus, which is the higher octave of Mercury. So you can understand this air energy. You work very, very well with air energies, being an air energy yourself. It means that you're going to be looking at restructuring your community life, your sibling community, your communication, your everyday internet usage, all of that. The decisions may feel weighted and drawn out. You might feel like there's a heavy weight in those areas sometimes and you need space. So make tweaks in these spaces. Make sure you get some space from this direct community when you need it, because otherwise it could all feel very much like too much. Having a heavy planet in a place which is more to do with just going to the local shops, going to the hairdressers, making your doctor's appointment, whatever, going to the dentist, being on social, going through your Facebook, your friends' Facebook photos or whatever. All of that is all Gemini area. Your relationship with your siblings and all of that. Thinking as well is all Gemini. Contracts and agreements and little travel, getting onto the bus or getting into your car and driving places. And having Saturn there could feel a little bit constricting. So make sure you have some breathing space for yourself. And finally, Pisces. Of course, this is happening in your second house because Aries is your second house of assets and beauty. It's a Venusian house. You work very well with Venus. Venus is exalted in Pisces. This is about self-worth and money, value, materials, abundance, your fertility, your ground, the ground that you live on, the green, the soil. And this is a semi-sextile. It can be uncomfortable. It can be irritating, a bit like a quincunx. You could be tussling with other people a little bit. This is the money house. Watch for major restructuring when it comes to your assets. That's what I'm going to say. Watch for things that change when it comes to your self-worth as well, the value, how you value things. Saturn will want you to let go of outdated ideas. This is a very Empress energy space, and Saturn's going to be in there. Saturn is good with ground energy and with earth energy, but you might need to start clearing up some issues that you have around money and how you value yourself and your assets and how you save, but also how you spend. And it doesn't all have to be negative. So it will challenge you to grow with certain things when it comes to fertility and attracting money and abundance and so forth. Okay, so we are at the end. Yes, this is the last slide. We are at the end. So let's go back here. So really, let's go to here. Saturn in Aries, see this wherever it's falling as a time of learning, as a time of growth. Keep it as a journal. Allow yourself the grace to make any mistakes, because that's what Saturn is there for. He's not there to punish you. He's there to help us to learn things. And so that area of our life actually then fosters, and that soil is now turned over and ready for the next planting of the seeds, because this is harvesting. So Saturn really is going to help us make sure that fertile ground that he leaves us with, in whichever area of our life it is in, whichever house, whether it's the 3rd house or the 8th house or the 4th house or the 12th, whatever house it's falling in, use this as an opportunity for you to walk away with some learnings and feeling a little bit more restructured and grounded in those areas as well, and leave you with a gift. And remember, this particular sign, this particular planet is a timekeeper. But time can really be helpful for us. It helps us value ourselves, actually, because time's precious. Money can come and go. Relationships might come and go as well. But time is very precious. It's finite. And so therefore, valuing our presence, being in the present moment, is also a big part of the Saturnian life. To celebrate what we have today, and to celebrate all the things that we already have. And look at that and appreciate that. So I hope this helps you. Thank you again for joining me. It's a bit of a long video. I'm going to break it up into chapters. But yeah, thank you for joining me today. I wish you a wonderful day wherever you are. I will be back with a Saturn and Neptune in Aries video. Probably, hopefully, fingers crossed, a bit shorter. But until then, thank you so much and take care now.